Okay, so let's have a look at some of the close-ups of some cheap items I bought recently. Just for fun, I'm doing it really for the review here, and then I'm going to sell them back on eBay. So the first thing I did was I bought a Nikon D100. I'm going to show you all the close-ups of these. This is an old model camera. It cost me £85. I'll put the equivalent prices on screen for you in dollars. If I want to sell this again, I'll probably get the same money back on eBay. I may even make a few pounds on it. This came with the battery drive grip, the motor drive grip, included in the price. These are normally separate. Not this lens, this is my existing lens, I've got a lens here. Now this is about, I think, maybe 8 years old, this particular model of camera. It's a 6 megapixel camera, and you'd think really that nowadays you're not going to get very good results with this kind of a camera. By the way, there's a lot of traffic noise outside, so I do apologise if the audio is not so good. I'll try to clean that up afterwards. Okay, so that's the first thing. I've got the Nikon D100. And really what I wanted to do was show that even the older cameras give you superb results. And in the other videos I've done, you might have seen some of the samples of images that I've taken with these various lenses. Now I've got a Series E 100mm lens. This is an old Nikon lens, quite an old one. The Series E was never really popular for some reason. It was seen as a second level, second quality type of Nikon. Manual aperture control, manual focus. Now on a modern DSLR you would expect autofocus, I know, but manual focus isn't as bad as it sounds. It will just take you an extra second or so to get ready to take your shots. And as a portrait lens, the 100mm length is really good. It's a 2.8 lens, which means it lets in quite a lot of light. So in that sense it's better than modern zooms. I'll show you results from this lens in one of the review videos. I then got a 28 to 80mm G autofocus lens, a Nikon again. This was £37. Now the nearest price I can find for a 28 to 80 these days, I think is about £300–400, the latest Nikon one. But the real question is, does it give sharp results? It feels awful, it's very plasticky, it looks awful with this silver trim. I have to say it looks like a cheapo lens, but the results are what counts. And again, you'll see the lens test for this. And finally, I got an AFD Nikon lens, an 80 to 200mm. It's a very popular type of telephoto lens. 70 to 200 is quite popular. 80 to 200 used to be the popular focal length, then they changed it to 70 to 200, or in some cases 70 to 210. Again, you've got the manual aperture ring, and again, you're going to see results from this lens. This one cost me £55 plus a little bit of postage. So really, for the entire thing, it was about 200 and, let me just calculate quickly, 85, 55, there's 140, £237. US dollar equivalent is showing now. That's for a complete collection of lenses with a Nikon D100 DSLR. Now I'll put the specifications for this camera on the description. It's an older camera, so really the main thing to know is that it's 6 megapixels, it takes a CF, a compact flash card, and the ISO, the performance at high ISO is not as good as a modern one for sure, but then how often are you going to be using low ISO? If you're not doing it very often, why pay all the extra money for a more expensive camera? Depends on what you're shooting, of course, but for me as an experiment to see just how good this older camera was, I thought it would be worth doing. One thing I did notice in making some shots earlier, which you'll have seen on the other video, the viewfinder is quite a bit darker than a modern viewfinder on one of the Nikons. You'd expect that. Modern technology is giving everything an improvement in performance. But in terms of the native results, the actual photograph, when you look at them and compare them in a realistic way, do you see much difference? And bear in mind that this entire outfit is 1/10 of the cost or less of an equivalent Canon or Nikon outfit, depending on the model you buy. And although you're going to be getting some what they call pixel peeping, I'm going to zoom in quite a long way with the examples, you'll see any differences quite clearly. The reality is if you print these out or put them on your web pages or on your screens or your iPhone or whatever, at the kind of size you're likely to see images, you really probably won't tell much difference. So, That's the Nikon D100, the 80-200 AFD. That actually feels quite a nice lens. It doesn't feel as plastic as this one, which is a G lens. That's the 28-80. By the way, there's something else about these lenses which is quite good. That's a Series E 100mm. What's good about these lenses? Well, let me tell you the thing I think that is most important about these lenses. These will cover a full frame camera. Now, if you move to a full frame camera from Canon and Nikon, your DX lenses or your EFS lenses, if you're Canon, the ones that are designed for crop factor sensors, they won't cover the full frame. In other words, you get some, what they call vignetting and darkening around the edges of the picture. I'll see if I can show you some examples of that. These, because they're older lenses, were designed to work on 35mm film, and they will actually cover an entire full frame camera. So for example, the Nikon D800, the D600, the D4, the Canon 1DX, the Canon 6D, the Canon 5D Mark III, and so on. And at that kind of a price, they're quite affordable. To buy the equivalents that will cover full frame, they're out of my league for sure. Well, unless I saved up for a couple of years. But the kind of results you get on full frame, quite astonishing. I have already tested these, and I'm very impressed. So I'm going to show you a selection of photos now. You tell me honestly, I'm going to label them A, B and C and so on. And you tell me which ones you think are best. What I'll do at the very, very end, I'll tell you which lens is which, and also which camera is which, because what I've done is take some of the photos with the D100, and I've taken some with the modern Nikon that I have, just to compare. One thing about this battery grip, which is nice, when you're shooting in portrait, it has an extra vertical shutter release button just here, and that makes it quite stable, quite a good position for shooting, so you get a little bit better sharpness, accuracy and lack of camera shake and so on. And that came with the camera for that price. I could probably sell that separately on its own for about 40% of the cost of what I've paid. So really, buying second-hand like this, it's limited the risk. I can get my money back later because they don't reduce in price over the next few months because they're already old. And it gives me, if I needed a camera with good results, this will give me one. I've already looked at cameras, of course, as you know. But if I was starting out and didn't have much money, this would be a good way to go. And I could get an entire setup with 3 really good lenses for less than the cost of one of the base model DSLRs. Personally, I think that's a bargain. I'm a great believer in buying previous models that are just about to be discontinued because the price reduces quickly. So I got the 7000, the Nikon D7000, for example. That's probably going to be discontinued fairly soon. The price has dropped recently quite significantly, but it's still a good camera. You know, it's a good camera even though the price has dropped, and a newer one's on the block. Just because there's a newer, better camera doesn't mean that this one, or the Nikon D7000 or any of the others, is no good anymore. People were happy with this last year or the year before. Well, you can be happy with it now as well. So there's my point of view on old cameras and what you can do with them. Have a look at the pictures and please do comment. If you would, give me a thumbs up and a like. And why not subscribe while you're here? There's lots more videos to come. Thanks for joining me again. See you next time. Bye.